to listen to me. But it is a daunting task for families. Bottom line, it's just a daunting task for families to try to achieve the American dream and having to fund college education for their children. And there is different avenues and options to take. As I mentioned, as a former mortgage consultant, working many years with people to achieve their home financing dreams, one of their most important assets was their homes. And their homes were utilized to help achieve that college education goal for their children. Oftentimes, people's home is their most valuable asset. And with that asset, some were almost finished paying off their mortgage. Now they had to add 10, 15, 20, or even 30 more years to have to achieve the dream of their child going to complete college funding and education for them. I wish that people would have the ability to share that with many of their family, even from my own parents. Someone who had sat down to them and discussed, well, this is what you do. So when your children are grown at 18 years old, 19 or 20, they have the ability to satisfy and pay off their education. Maybe use it for a job as a self-employed career, or even to buy a home. So if someone had the chance to say, well, this is a workshop that I think would be viable for you to listen to, that gives you options and the ability to share with your children a future that can be paid off and satisfied. My parents had to work extra hours. I had to get a student loan. And I often wondered what would have been different if that was able to be done for them. But I was very proud of that college degree. I didn't possess it. I gave it directly to them, so they worked just as hard as I did to acquire it. But we have today different options that are available. We have a platform such as World Financial Group that since 2001 has been helping millions of families and individuals to become financially free, protecting their families, learning how to have managing their debt, wealth preservation. There's a platform for all this to empower families. And that's what attracted me to WFG, which I've been associate with them for almost a year. That platform of educating and learning and sharing. Information is free. It's all what you do about it. With it, it's empowering. And I am happy to share this platform with my associate, Michelle Malolian. She's our senior marketing director, and she's also a certified college consultant. And she is a financial educator, and I think it would be worth the while for people to listen to achieve what those options may be to help you. So Michelle, without further ado, you can take it away.
Thank you so much. I didn't want to miss how amazing the story that you have is. And thank you so much for allowing me to share this with you. Welcome, everyone. Good evening to everyone. And we are fortunate to have you guys over here to talk a little bit more about one of the most critical planning in life, which is college planning. And what we've seen is that in the financial industry, being in the industry now going on 9 years in January, I've seen that there's three of the biggest planning, you could say, that people are concerned about. And one of them is retirement planning. The other one is college planning. And also the last one is financial planning when it comes to structuring their financial foundation. So these are some of the critical parts that most of the time people are concerned about and would like to learn more about their option. And this is not something that's really discussed often, and you don't see this being integrated in a family's structuring. And most of the time people don't know who to go to, where to go to, and what are their options for their children and for their kids to make sure that they have a stable planning walking into college. And just like what Karen talks about when it comes to the pitfalls of not planning ahead of time, it really can collapse the financial structure of a family's, you could say, financial foundation in the future. And some of that is dipping into someone's retirement rather than for the purpose of college, and so much more. And we've seen that all the time, or building up a massive amount of student loan that most people don't know, or better yet, never have paid until many years. And there's been news that even Obama have just recently paid his student loan in his late 40s. So these are some things that if we can reach out to communities out there and open up the possibilities and their knowledge when it comes to financial literacy, especially when it comes to college planning, imagine what we can do to our children's future and really start them off, not starting in the negative, but starting their life already set in place, ready to go and utilize the degree that they went to school for. And this is what I wanted to share with you today. And let me know, Karen. I could see everybody, so I appreciate everyone that had their video, and I'm excited to all have you guys here. So let me know if you can see what I see. It loaded in your end. Okay. So our main topic today will focus on college funding option. And before we talk about all these options, such as UGMA, UTMA, 529 College Savings Plan, Educational IUL, the main thing that we need to ask ourselves is, what is the purpose of college funding? Well, let's start off with that. With that being said, when it comes to the purpose of college funding, we need to start asking ourselves, what is our intention for saving for our kids? Is it just for money for future expenses, meaning that by the time they get to, you could say, the volume is extremely low for me. Can everyone hear me okay? Or is the volume still low? I see someone before I continue. Everybody's volume, I'm getting thumbs up to the rest. Maybe we can let Carolyn Whitney know that she might need to turn her volume up for this. All right. So the main question that we all need to ask ourselves, for those that are starting a family or already have a family, is that, do we want to give the kids the ability to have some funds to pay for going to college or transitioning to college? Or are we expecting all the time that they might qualify for scholarship or financial aid? So these are things that we need to be aware of, and really vital question that needs to be answered. Because if left unanswered, we're giving, you could say, a path of uncertainty for the future. So another part that we need to see is whether we want, as parents, to have long-term asset accumulation, meaning we not only do we get the chance to set aside some funds for the future for the kids, but in the future to transfer that wealth for them and for the next generation to come. So what is the purpose of this saving that you want to get started, or merely just to pay for college? So when we can address this question, then we can now start searching for the different options that are available out there. And once you have this in mind, another part that we need to know is that, what are the vehicles? And when it comes to vehicles, you always want to ask two things. Is it flexible enough? Meaning, is it liquid? Can we put more in there? Can we touch it at any moment, any time? And what's the control? Meaning, are we going to leave the control to our children by the time they turn 18 or 20 years old or 25 years old? Or do we have the control for that? What if they decide not to go to college? So that's another, you could say, unanswered question that I want you guys to have with you as we dissect all the different options when it comes to college for our kids, right? So the main one, being able to understand the purpose of what the college funding is for, and then also knowing, do we have the flexibility in that type of option, and also do we have the control, or are we leaving the control for the kids to take care of that? So now let's go ahead and tackle into one of the options for college funding, which is what's known as UGMA. or also known as UTMA. So this is one of the options out there. So what is a UGMA? Well, it stands for Uniform Gifts to Minors Act, or Uniform Transfer to Minors Act. See, we can't just immediately, let's say we have built an asset in the future and we want to just give it to the kid. We cannot just out of nowhere just pass it on to the children or next of kin. There's a process that takes place, and there's restriction and taxation that comes with this. So we need to, you could say, we need to be aware of those regulations. So having a fund of a Uniform Gift to Minors Act or a Uniform Transfer to Minors Act is an ability for you to transfer some of your asset to your children for specific purposes. So it's used to transfer asset to minors without the time-consuming and expensive establishment of a formal trust. So usually creating trust is not, it could be $1,000, but it allows you, or more, but it allows you to properly, legally transfer your funds to those individuals. But if we want to avoid that, we can also create this. And with that being said, there's 3 phases that we need to be aware of. The contribution phase, meaning how do we fund our money in there? The accumulation, how is it going to grow while you're leaving your money in that account? And the distribution, what that phase means is that when we touch the money, what are the regulations and rules out there? So now that we know this is one of the options, let's go ahead and go over the contribution phase, right? So on the contribution phase, when we're putting money in that account, well, parents can contribute for their children, right? And minors are the one that owns the account, meaning it's not in our name, but it's in their name. And also, how do you pay it? After tax dollars. So if I earn income and after I pay taxes on that, then I can move whatever I've already paid taxes to that account. And the maximum that I can put in this account can range between 13,000 to about 15,000 to avoid the restriction that the government have implemented, the gift tax restriction. And if, let's say, that's only if let's say I'm single, and this usually change over the course of the year. So you want to know exactly what the limitations are every year. And you could just Google that and it lets you know how, just put UGMI maximum that I can put, and you can get that number specifically. Now, if I'm married, both of us can put a total of about 30,000 if we're married, all right? So that's the contribution phase, how we can fund the account. Now, let's go over the accumulation phase. How does that look like? Well, this is usually set in the bank. And when it comes to accumulation phase, there's 3 different places that you can actually put your money at. You can either put your money in a banking institution. You could either put your money in an investment, or you could say investment company, or you could put your money in an insurance company. For visual purposes, let me go ahead and have you guys see this. All right. And let me know when you can see my screen and it loads in your side. Everybody can see this? Okay, perfect. Karen, I see you visually. Okay. Tahira, thank you so much. I saw that you said the volume is good in your end. Okay, so when you're putting your money somewhere, there's different places that you could put your money. You can either put your money in a fixed account, which is considered banking institution usually holds fixed account. Insurance or investment falls into variable. And then insurance company holds what's known as index. And usually in a fixed account in a banking institution, you have the ability to grow, but very little amount. But the advantage that it gives us is that we have peace of mind, we have safety in this situation. Now, when we tackle into investment, we call that variable. And the definition of variable, if you look at up in the dictionary is undependable, unreliable, unstable. So how comfortable are you on leaving your college funding plan for your children in an unstable account is the question. Now, don't get me wrong. The advantage that you and I get in this situation is we have the ability to grow limitless, but also at any down market, we can also participate in the loss. So we can grow, we can lose, grow, lose at the same time. So that's what's considered variable. So I want to teach you guys the terminologies so you can see that what are our options when we're putting the money somewhere and how is it growing. And the third one, an index, and majority of the companies that use this are insurance companies. An index is, you could say, a hybrid abode, where you have the ability to grow, but to a certain point. And if the market crash, you don't participate with the loss, you actually have safety feature in there. And when the market grows again, you have the ability to grow. And if it crash again, you don't participate with the loss. So it gives you the hybrid approach. So knowing that information, going back to our presentation on the accumulation, on the UGMA and UTMA, you can pick where the money is invested. You could either pick and put that money in the bank, which it gives you that fixed performance that gives you a limited amount of growth, but you have that safety. Or you can invest that money in a brokerage account that gives you a variable, which you can use stocks, bonds, mutual fund, but get ready for the up and down, the volatility market. So patient is the key. You got to learn to stomach the downside of the market if that's going to be the choice. And one thing to know about this is that it's also what's known as a tax now account. So what is a tax now account? Well, going back again to what I was discussing with you, when it comes to taxes, there's a lot of accounts out there, but they only fall into 3 tax family: tax now, tax later, and tax advantage. See, tax now are accounts that you could say it's a most commonly used account out there. Almost everybody have them. And these are checking, savings, CDs, stocks, and mutual funds. And how this one works is, imagine I buy 100,000 or I buy $10,000 worth of Amazon stock, right? Now I own $10,000 worth. And that Amazon stock jumped into 12,000. Well, I don't pay taxes on the 10,000 because that came out of my pocket, but the growth, that 2,000 growth, I have to pay taxes the same year. That's why it's called tax now account. These are accounts that when our money grow and earn interest in the same year, we have to pay taxes on that. So that's what tax now accounts, that's how it works. So anytime your money grow in that account, you have to also pay taxes on the account that you're using, right? So that's how the UGMA and UTMA work. And we're going to give you guys question and answer too towards the end. So I recommend any question that you have, write it down so that as we go over that questionnaire, we'll tackle that together. So we went over the contribution phase. We have went over also the accumulation phase. Let's go over the distribution. So how do we access it? So let's say the kids want to use this for college. So let me go ahead and talk about that. So on the distribution age, it allows a minor to take control of the asset as early as 18 years old. So imagine that fund that you have built up for them, and they're already in college. They have full access and full control over that. If you open a UGMA, it's 18 years old. If you open a UTMA, it's 22 years old. So you gotta be mindful of that, because how confident are you on their control of the expenses or the funds by the time they turn 18? Would you give your 18-year-old $500,000, and would they be able to manage that properly? So that's another question that any parents need to know when it comes to tackling and opening up these type of accounts. And then also, it can be used for any purpose. The good part about this is it's not just for the purpose of college. They can use it to buy a car. They can use it for anything else that they can think about. Or they can use it for the purpose of buying a laptop for college or dorm. So it doesn't have that much restriction, right? But another downside for this, though, is that it does affect heavily on their FAFSA application. So it's counted since the minor is the one that owns it. When they're flying, most people don't realize that there's a lot of money that the educational institution receive every single year. And what happens is it's in a first come, first serve, and that's why we apply for FAFSA. And whoever applies for that immediately at the cutoff date, or better yet, at the date of opening, the chances of them receiving free money is a lot higher than someone applying later. And some of the qualification to see whether or not the funding is acceptable is that they take a look at what are some of the asset that was built up for this individual. And it could be counted heavily. And I mean, we might miss some future earnings in the future because most people think, hey, my husband and I make adequate funds or income, so my child will not possibly receive any FAFSA. That's some of the misconception, you could say, when it comes to college planning, that there's options and there's different ways that allows you to gather up free money properly if you structure and plan the right way in the future. So this is how distribution works. When it comes to the UGMA, UTMA, it's not just restricted for college purpose, right? So I hope everybody is clear when it comes to utilizing a UGMA. So now that we're there, let's go ahead and go over the next option. We also have another option known as 529 College Savings Plan, right? And this is designed specifically for educational purpose. If used outside of education purpose, then you can say there's some disadvantage, right? It says that my internet connection is unstable. Can everyone still hear me okay? I haven't got disconnected or anything?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. Appreciate that. So let's go back to this. 529 College Savings Plan. That's why it says College Savings Plan, because it's dedicated for educational purpose. So on the contribution end, this is what's known as after-tax contribution. So after you pay your income tax, that's where you can put whatever's left and put that in a 529. Now, the range, or you could say the maximum, can range about $15,000 per year or $75,000 in the total of 5 years. So this can change as future taxation change. So always update to see what would be the maximum. Usually when you sit down with financial professional like Karen and I, we can give you an updated yearly change for that as well. So that's the contribution for 529 College Plan. And when it comes to accumulation, the beautiful part about this is that it's known as tax advantage account. So what is a tax advantage account? So let's go back to our chart. So we went over tax now. Let's go over tax advantage. See, what a tax advantage account is, after you pay taxes on the income that you've earned, you can put your money in account like Roth IRA, 529 college savings, executive bonus, long-term care benefit, cash value of a life insurance. These are considered tax advantage accounts. And when the money that's sitting there earns interest, we don't have to pay taxes on that. And when we touch the money, we don't have to worry about taxes on that. So let's say I put $10,000 in that type of account, it earned interest and it grew to 12,000, we don't have to pay taxes. 15,000, we don't have to pay taxes. $20,000, $75,000, $100,000, we don't have to pay taxes. So that's one of, you could say, a tax-free vehicle that's available out there, the 529. And usually on the accumulation, then how it grows is that you find an investment company. You can find this in a banking institution as well, but on a brokerage account, the way your money grows is very similar to a variable. It has the ability to grow, but if the market crash, you participate also in the loss. It goes up and down, up and down. It's invested in a mutual fund majority of the time, right? So that's how a 529 grows in value. So with that being said, let's go ahead on the distribution end. How does this work? Well, when it comes to the distribution end, this gives you tax-free for college purposes. So when you have access to that, you don't have to worry about all the interest that it earns and paying taxes on the interest. We avoid that. But it also is subject to tax and 10% penalty if used for other purposes. Remember, the first thing that I mentioned when we start with this is that it's for only educational purposes. If a kid or we decide to use the funds to buy a car, that's not really college purpose or reason. But if you use the fund to purchase a laptop to utilize while in college, then that's part of that. And also, let's say, for instance, they have to pay for dorm or any other expenses that is college related, then you avoid taxes and also penalties, right? And also, let's say, for instance, the kid that you have the 529 college plan to decided not to go to college. So, if you access this fund without the college side, then we're going to get disqualified and it's subject to tax as well. You have the ability to transfer it to your immediate family. So meaning that, let's say you have another kid, then you can transfer that for your other children for that purpose and hoping and praying that they use it for college. If not, it becomes what's known as a qualified account. And now that's really in your name. And what happens is you have to worry about the taxation for it. But a downside with this is that it also affects FAFSA as they fill out their application to see whether or not they can be, you could say, qualify for some resources, free money. Well, if they see that you do have this set for kids, then they can also subject that to maybe first complete or utilize all the funds sitting in the 529, and then they'll look at it in the following year when you apply for FAFSA again. So that's something that we need to keep in mind when we're thinking about opening a 529 college funding, right? So I hope this gives you some clarity when it comes to 529 college savings plan. Now, another option out there, and it's the most orthodox one when it comes to college funding option, but most people don't know about it and they're not really educated about this process, is what's known as an educational IUL. An IUL stands for Index Universal Life. What that means is that using a life insurance for the purpose of college planning, college funding. So most people don't realize that the cash value of a life insurance, it can be signed in fund for college purposes, can be used for that. Because on the contribution end, the maximum amount allowed to contribute is depending on how much life insurance someone has. And let's say if I have kids, the first thing though is the parents need to first have life insurance before the kids can qualify for this. So that's, you could say, a downside to it. So life insurance first for the parents, for the kids to have life insurance that can use for the purpose of cash value. So kids will have life insurance insured from day one. And the money is after tax contribution. It's the same thing for all three. But do not, there's not like a minimum fund, a policy can be put in here, or better yet, it gives you an ability to be more flexible on what you want to put. So that's when it comes to the contribution. So it allows you to put the money in there. There's not really a minimum, maximum. It just depends on how you structure it. You can be putting more than 75,000 in a course of 5 years, but it's just how you design it. And another part is on the accumulation end. How is it going to grow? Well, it grows in the insurance side. So meaning you have the option to leave it in a fixed type of insurance, or a variable type, or an index option. So you have flexibility of choice on where you want to invest the money. You have the ability to keep it consistent. You have the ability to keep it in a growth phase or in between. Most people nowadays use index option, and because it gives you both the ability to grow and not have the ability to lose. And majority of the index that they use is what's known as an S&P 500. It's known as the Standard and Poor 500, where it gives us that growth and also safety at the same time. And of course, this is another vehicle that's considered that's tax-free out there. So that's on the accumulation side when you're handling an educational index universal life, IUL. So on the distribution end, what happens in the distribution? Well, you have tax-free access and subject to surrender schedule, of course. And what that means is just it depends on when you're going to touch the money. And also, you have the ability to use it with whatever purpose. It doesn't have to be for college. Let's say the child decided not to go to college at all. You can still keep on funding this account, and maybe when they get married or when they want to purchase their first home, or they can use that for retirement. So it doesn't have to be restricted on what the money can do. Parents remain in control of the policy. You're not leaving it for your kids to control it. And it's an umbrella. What that means is that it doesn't affect FAFSA. So meaning the funds that you build up in this type of account does not disqualify them. Even if you have 100,000 sitting in here, 75,000 sitting in here, they can still have that potential to qualify in the future. And kids have life insurance. We talked about that. And what that means is, what if the kids really need to get student loan and you are the co-signer, something happens to the child, it affects you as the parent. And that still needs to be paid for the student loan. And also, what if the child develops some type of health condition and they become insurable in the future? You now have some type of insurance for the kid for the future. And when we talk about it can be leveraged, see, what happens is when you're applying for subsidized student loans and do not accrue interest while you are at, you could say, at the school, what happens is you can leverage it by showing like, I do have this funds and I can use that funds to still open up student loans, and the funding to pay the student loan is this account. That's what it means to leverage the account. And you can give the chance to grow your money over here, because some of the interest that grows in the index fund can range between 7 to 9% in interest, compared to banks that gives us 0.01% or point nothing, right? And parents' supplemental retirement, let's say they don't use it, then you can use it for your own retirement for the future. So there's a lot of different things that you can utilize for this. It's a very flexible fund. And one of my favorite one is that it does avoid the FAFSA application. So if they can qualify for those free money, and there's chances for them to get more of the grants and other options out there, then you can use this for future resources and for just planning for the next level in the next stage of their life. So this is what we have when it comes to our college funding option. And knowing all of this information allows you to pinpoint which one really fits for your family and needs. And that way that it gives me a chance to also show you what are the advantage that it comes with and what are the disadvantage, and seeing whether or not this actually fit for your family's needs. And I know I went over quite a lot of information, so I'm going to give us a chance. We have a couple minutes left. I'm going to give a chance for people to ask any question, if you have any question regarding the topic that we went over with. And while we're going through the answer questionnaire, and feel free to mute your line too. While we're going over this information, I will have a poll ready in front of you. Just, we want to know your opinion, what might you want to be interested with to learn more about, and that gives us an idea and just knowledge on, based on the information that we share, which one it is that piques your interest the most. And
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Michelle, can you go very quickly on the contribution phase of educational IUL? Just show the slide again.
For the educational IUL, you mentioned contribution. So what about the contribution?
Yeah, I just want to see that slide again.
Okay, no problem. Any other question other than the slide? So, can you guys see the poll that I've launched though? It should be in everybody's screen. Okay, perfect. It should be in everybody's screen right now. So while we're going over this, and I'm waiting to see if anybody have any question or any comment, anything, was this educational for you? Was this something that you have helped you? But another part that most people don't realize is that there's also, if not funding, there's also another option called planning, college planning. I know we don't have this over here because it's all funding option. Another choice that parents have that most people don't realize is there are programs out there known as college planning program. And one of the organizations that I'm part of focus on planning for the kids, program for the kids. It's a nonprofit organization. And what that entails, you can say, Marcel, really quickly, do you still need this slide, or are we good when it comes to this slide? You're muted. Is that good, Marcel?
Yeah. You can move on. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. So one part that we didn't share in this slide is more on the planning end. There are options for families out there to expand their knowledge and know-how of the availability of college planning program. And what college planning program entails is not saving, it's more of putting your child in a program that will be coached by specialized director that have known the ins and out of college when it comes to the process, when it comes to how a child gets approved for college, what are some of the standards and expectation of different colleges out there that we want to pursue, what is the cost when someone wants to move out of state or in a different country. So these are things that college program provide in preparation for the kids to know, and in preparation for the parents to know more into details about what are some of the resources that they need to be involved with, and what are the resources that are available out there for their kids. So if we can expand on that further, I know Karen is one of the college consultant with us, and we have multiple college consultant that we have with our firm. But this allows the kids to really have their own personalized coaching. They can show them what are the resources when it comes to scholarship, what are the resources when it comes to the college that they might be interested to go to, and what are some of the questionnaire that the kids might need to bring with them when they're searching at, you could say, potential college location. and how is the breakdown of the cost to pursue for those colleges. So you have, you could say, a right-hand man with you or woman with you that can guide your kids to the next level. So that is an option, and there are programs out there. If you are interested to learn more about this, feel free to reach out with us, reach out to Karen, and also we appreciate Tahira for allowing us to do this workshop. I recorded this information so that for future purposes, maybe we can also share this to other people that have missed this session as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and pass this on to Karen. Karen, thank you so much for allowing me to share this information. I hope it was informative for everybody. And thank you so much. It was a privilege to share this.
Thank you. Phenomenal. Thank you, Michelle. I think it's a valuable information for parents to learn. There's a lot of considerations and a lot of things to think about when it comes to college planning and education for their children. And it's very important to have access to knowledge and information. Oftentimes when it's free, it's empowering. So knowing the ability to do with it is the key. People can share with you every day information, but if you don't ever apply it, it's no good. It's empowering when you're able to apply it and use it. And that's why we are able to enjoy sharing platforms such as this to help become families to be aware, to be educated, and to know what options are available to them. And it's, as aforementioned, it's a very daunting task for many families. They don't know what to do. They don't know where to go. They don't even know if they're asking the right questions. Perhaps they're overlooking an opportunity they're not aware of. But something like this, we do appreciate Michelle for being detailed and showing us the different options that are available. I want to thank Elmont Public Library and for Tahira Ahmad, who is the head of the young adult department in Elmont. We want to thank you for allowing us to share this, and we look forward to sharing more. And thanks everyone for being on this evening.
Sounds good. Bye-bye, everyone. Take care.
Have a good night.